When seasons of change start to sweep through your life, when the quiet is suddenly broken by a holy shift you cannot put into words, when you feel something greater than yourself beginning to stir, child of God, do not turn away. Do not shrug it off. Do not write it off as mere coincidence. It is not coincidence. It is not random. It is God. And once God starts to move, you must deliberately line yourself up, because no person can halt what God has set in motion. But listen, alignment does not happen by accident. It is a choice. It is a spiritual posture. It is bold and wholehearted. If you are not planted in obedience, reverence, and readiness, you will miss the exact moment of God's favor. You will stand on the outside of what you were meant to walk in. Many pray for change, yet resist it when it comes. Many ask God to shift their life, but remain glued to their comfort zones, to their routine, to their control. But when God begins to move, He is not asking for your permission. He is commanding your participation. This is not the hour to be passive. This is not the season to be uncertain. This is the hour to rise. This is the season to surrender. Because when God begins to move, mountains bow, doors swing open, enemies scatter, and new paths are formed where there was once only wilderness. But you must be willing to walk. You must be willing to move with the movement of God. You must be willing to let go of the familiar and step into the unknown, because the unknown with God is safer than the familiar without Him. Too many people are waiting for God to adjust to their schedule, waiting for God to come in a package they approve of, waiting for God to confirm their comfort rather than confront their compromise. But God is not a servant to your comfort. He is the fire that consumes it. When God begins to move, He disrupts everything that is not rooted in Him. He exposes foundations that were built on fear. He confronts plans that were born in ego. And if your heart is not yielded, if your spirit is not humbled, you will interpret His movement as loss. When it is really promotion, you must understand when God begins to move, He is not always loud. He is not always dramatic. Sometimes He moves in silence. Sometimes He speaks through unrest. Sometimes He shakes the foundation of your life just enough to cause you to kneel. Because alignment starts in surrender. Not in strength, not in striving, but in letting go. Letting go of your timeline. Letting go of your expectations. Letting go of the way you thought things would go. And opening your heart to the divine direction that only God can provide. But listen to me now. God does not move in confusion. God moves in clarity. His movement is not chaos, though it may unsettle you. His movement is not destruction, though it may remove things you thought you needed. God's movement is always holy, always just, always rooted in purpose, but it will challenge your flesh. It will call your spirit to attention. It will demand that you stop playing small. It will expose the areas in your life where you've been resisting transformation. Because when God begins to move, He is not just changing your surroundings. He is changing you. And here is the truth few want to hear. Alignment will cost you. It will cost you pride. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you relationships that are not rooted in God's truth. But what you lose in comfort, you gain in clarity. What you lose in familiarity, you gain in favor. God does not call you to alignment to break you. He calls you to alignment to bless you. But you must be willing to walk away from what's good to step into what's God. Some of you are praying for open doors while sitting in rooms God has already left. You are clinging to expired seasons. You're holding on to habits that no longer serve your future. You're asking God for a breakthrough while resisting the very movement that brings it. But you cannot step into what's next while still chained to what's past. You must unclench your fists. You must release what God has already removed. Because when God begins to move, delay is disobedience. Delay is distraction. Delay is dangerous. God is not waiting for you to feel ready. He is waiting for your yes, your full yes, your surrendered yes, your obedient yes. That kind of yes opens heavens. That kind of yes shifts atmospheres. That kind of yes aligns you with the unstoppable will of God. Because the moment you begin to align with God, hell will panic. The enemy will stir. Distractions will increase. Temptations will multiply. But stand firm. Stay planted. Keep your eyes fixed on God, because what He started, He will finish. And if He is moving, you better move too. There is a rhythm to God's movement, a divine cadence. And when you begin to align yourself, you begin to move in step with that rhythm. You stop striving and start flowing. You stop controlling and start trusting. You stop begging and start believing. That is what alignment does. It brings your spirit into harmony with heaven. It tunes your ears to hear the whisper of God, even in the noise of life. It causes you to walk with confidence. Not because you know the way, but because you know the one who does. This alignment is not just about movement. It's about mindset. It's about attitude. It's about posture. Some of you in the right place, but with the wrong posture. You are where God placed you, but your heart is still bitter. Your mouth still complains. Your faith still wavers, and that misalignment will block what God wants to pour out. God cannot bless pride. God cannot dwell in rebellion. God moves where there is humility, where there is brokenness, where there is faith. So check your posture. Is your spirit aligned with what your mouth is praying for? Is your character aligned with the blessings you're asking for? When God begins to move, He tests your faith, not to harm you, but to refine you, because He cannot elevate what hasn't been tested. He cannot promote what hasn't been purified. So when the fire comes, don't run. When the shaking begins, don't retreat. When everything familiar begins to fall apart, don't fear. That's the proving ground of alignment. That's the soil where purpose begins to grow. That's the furnace where destiny is formed. You see, God doesn't just want to bless you. He wants to trust you. And trust is earned in the places no one sees. In the silence, in the waiting, in the obedience that costs you, in the midnight prayers, in the lonely steps of faith. That's where alignment is forged. That's where character is built. That's where you begin to match the movement of God, not just with your words, but with your life. Let me tell you, when God begins to move, He will reveal things. He will uncover truth. He will show you what was hiding in the shadows. He will bring things to light, not to shame you, but to cleanse you. Because alignment requires purity, not perfection, but purity. A pure heart, a pure motive, a pure desire to follow God above all. That is the kind of heart God can use. That is the kind of spirit God can partner with. And when you align, truly align, your life becomes a vessel for something far greater than you. You become a carrier of divine purpose, a conduit for transformation, a light in the darkness. You don't just talk about faith, you become a living demonstration of it. And people will look at you and know not by your words, but by your fruit that God is with you, that God is guiding you, that God is moving through you. But make no mistake, alignment requires discipline. It requires consistency. It requires that you stay committed even when you don't feel it. Because faith is not a feeling. It is a decision. A decision to trust when you can't see. A decision to obey when you don't understand. A decision to follow when it's not popular. That is the price of alignment. But oh, the reward is greater than anything you could ever imagine. Because when you align with God, you don't chase blessings. Blessings chase you. You don't strive for success. Favor finds you. You don't manipulate outcomes. Peace anchors you. That is the power of being in the center of God's movement. That is the authority that comes from divine alignment. So if you sense that God is stirring something in your life, don't ignore it. Don't silence the voice that is calling you deeper. Don't resist the pull that is drawing you higher. Move, align, obey. Trust, because God is not just moving around you. He is moving in you, through you, for you. And if you are willing, if you are ready, if you are aligned, nothing will be able to stop what He is about to do. You will walk in rooms you didn't qualify for. You will see doors open that others tried to shut. You will experience restoration where there once was ruin. And it won't be because of your strength. It will be because you aligned with the strength of God. You surrendered, you yielded, you trusted. And now the favor of God goes before you. This is the season to align. This is the season to move with God. Not ahead of Him, not behind Him, but with Him in rhythm, in reverence, in radical obedience. Because when God begins to move, it's not just an opportunity, it's a divine summons. And your response will determine your harvest. Your response will shape your destiny. So don't delay, don't hesitate. Align yourself now, because the movement of God waits for no man. And when He moves, you want to be found ready, not reacting but prepared, not wondering but worshiping, not guessing but grounded, aligned in spirit, aligned in purpose, aligned in faith. And if you stay aligned, if you stay yielded, if you keep your posture humble and your heart pure, you will see the hand of God move in ways you never imagined. You will witness the supernatural in the natural. You will rise when others fall. You will stand when the storm rages. Because you are not anchored in circumstances. You are anchored in God. You are not swayed by opinions. You are led by divine truth. And that is where power resides. That is where purpose is fulfilled. That is where the fullness of God's plan unfolds. And now hear this. When God begins to move in your life, He often does so in ways that defy logic. What seems like loss may be the very path to gain. What feels like a delay may be divine protection. What looks like rejection may actually be redirection. You must not lean on human understanding, because when God moves, his wisdom shatters the limitations of man's reason. You cannot chart the map of a divine journey with human intellect. You must be led by the stillness that speaks from the depth of your soul. Where God whispers in clarity, trust me, when God starts to shift the ground beneath you, it's not to shake you into fear. It's to awaken you to faith. Faith that stands when the floor moves. Faith that walks when the road vanishes. Faith that obeys when the outcome is uncertain. This kind of faith cannot be borrowed, cannot be faked, and cannot be learned from books alone. It is born in the fire. It is built in the valleys. It is refined through storms. And it is this unshakable, heaven-born faith that aligns your soul with the very hand of God. Understand this deeply. Alignment is not a matter of merely being in the right place. It is about becoming the right person. You must become the vessel worthy of carrying what God is about to release. You must become the ground ready to receive the rain. Too many ask for the harvest without allowing God to till the soil. They ask for the outpouring without surrendering to the pruning. But God does not pour living water into vessels that leak. He does not release destiny into hearts still ruled by fear, pride, or bitterness. While you must be transformed to be trusted. You must be emptied to be filled. You must be made uncomfortable to be made unstoppable. And yes, it will hurt. Yes, it will cost you friends. Yes, it will acquire that you walk away from the shallow applause of men. But what you gain from God is worth every tear, every lonely night, every sacrifice. Because when God breathes on your life, what once was buried will rise. What once was dead will awaken. What once seemed impossible will become your testimony. When God begins to move, he will expose the distractions. He will strip away the idols. He will clear out the noise. Why? Because he cannot compete for your attention. God will not bless your life while you're bowing at the altar of your own desires. He calls for all of you total devotion, unwavering surrender, no compromise. That is the price of true alignment. Not just a moment of faith, but a life lived in full submission to God's will. Your mind is still ruled by doubt. If your words are still poisoned with negativity, if your actions still reflect rebellion, then don't expect to move with the movement of God, because God is holy. God is just. And God will not pour his sacred plans into a heart that is still entangled in unholy things. So cleanse yourself, not by outward rituals, but by inward repentance. Turn away from anything that dulls your spirit, silences your convictions, or clutters your path with confusion. And return to the stillness where God waits. In the silence, God speaks. In the waiting, God shapes, and in the fire, God prepares. If you are going through a season of uncertainty, it may not be punishment. It may be preparation. God will often allow the wilderness before the breakthrough to test your loyalty, to strip away dependency on others, and to see if you trust him more than the promise. Many are willing to follow God to the blessing, but not many are willing to follow him through the breaking. But those who do, those who endure, who stay faithful, who remain aligned, are the ones God crowns with glory. Stop asking for clarity and start walking in obedience. Clarity often comes after the step of faith, not before. God does not reveal every detail, because if he did, you would try to control it. He gives just enough light for the next step, because alignment is not about understanding the whole picture. It's about trusting the painter. You were never meant to see it all. You were meant to walk by faith, live by faith, move by faith, and let God be the one who orders your steps. When God begins to move, the enemy will launch counterattacks. You will face distractions dressed as opportunities. You will see people rise up against you who once supported you. You will feel the sting of betrayal, the heaviness of doubt, the fatigue of spiritual warfare. But don't let that break your alignment. Don't let the temporary pressure pull you out of eternal purpose. Stay focused. Stay rooted, because the enemy cannot curse what God has blessed. He can only try to distract you from seeing it. And distraction is just as dangerous as destruction, because both delay your destiny. Let me speak to your soul. There is greatness within you, but it will never be realized until you surrender to something greater than yourself. And that greatness is not measured by applause, numbers, or titles. It is measured by obedience, measured by purity, measured by how tightly your life clings to the will of God. That is the alignment that moves heavens. That is the life that shifts nations. That is the heart God uses to make history. Some of you are still waiting for confirmation, still waiting for a sign. But the sign is in the shift. The sign is in the restlessness. The sign is in the unanswered prayers. God is not punishing you. He is preparing you. He is rerouting you. He is calling you deeper. But you must respond. Alignment requires response. When you feel the wind of God's movement, you must set your sail. You cannot remain docked in fear. You cannot remain anchored in regret. Let go. Let God move forward. And don't expect everyone to understand your alignment. Don't expect everyone to celebrate your obedience. When God starts to separate you, it's because He is sanctifying you. Not everyone can go where you are going. Not every relationship can survive the fire of transformation. And that's okay. Let them go. Bless them. But don't stop. Keep walking. Keep aligning. Keep obeying. Because your destiny is not tied to those who leave. It is tied to the one who stays. And God never leaves. God never forsakes. God never fails. You will see people rise around you who are not more talented, but they are more aligned. You will witness the favor of God fall on those who dare to walk in surrender, not because they are perfect, but because they are positioned. And when you see it, don't envy, imitate, don't resent, reflect. Ask yourself, is my life positioned to receive the rain? Is my spirit in sync with God's rhythm? Is my heart truly ready to carry the weight of what I'm asking for? Because blessings come with burden. Promotion comes with pressure. Breakthrough comes with responsibility. If you're out of alignment, the very thing you pleaded for can become your ruin. But when you're aligned, God steadies your shoulders. He sharpens your mind. He moors your soul so firmly that nothing on earth can dislodge your purpose. Yes, there will be moments you want to give up. Moments when God's silence seems louder than His voice, yet don't let go. Alignment isn't confirmed in calm seasons. It's revealed in hardships, under pressure, in crushing trial. That's where oil is produced. That's where character is formed. That's where your faith becomes immovable. You don't mature in constant sunshine. You mature in the storms. A storm doesn't signal God's absence. It signals his presence moving, molding, working, refining, and preparing you. And now in this moment of awakening, let the soul hear clearly. When God begins to move, he is not merely shifting circumstances. He is calling forth destiny. He is awakening something ancient and eternal within you, something planted before time itself. This is not simply about promotion or provision. This is about divine positioning. God is setting you in the place where his purpose and your obedience collide. And that collision will release a sound in the earth that no force can silence. But hear this. Alignment is not a performance. It is a posture, not a display for others, but a surrender to God that happens in the unseen corners of the heart. You must stop thinking that alignment is about convenience or comfort. It is about covenant. It is about the solemn, unbreakable bond between your soul and your Creator. When God moves, he searches not for talent, not for charisma, not for status, but for the one who is available, the one who is empty enough to be filled, the one who is quiet enough to hear, the one who is willing to be made low so that God can be made known. I say this to you also, by the way, cling to God in the dark, late people. That is the soul God uses. That is the heart that carries heaven's weight. Do not be fooled by outward success. Do not envy the fast rise of those who have no roots, because when the winds blow, only the deeply planted will remain standing. God is not building for a moment. He is building for eternity. And if it feels like he is taking his time with you, it is because he is building something that will last. Something that will carry the weight of future generations, something unshakable. But to walk in that kind of legacy, you must live in alignment every single day. You cannot afford to drift. You cannot afford to be double-minded. You cannot afford to live half-committed. Some think they can be halfway in and still receive the fullness of what God wants to pour. But God does not bless divided hearts. He does not anoint double lives. He moves where there is singular focus, unwavering faith, and complete surrender. That is where his power flows. That is where his presence dwells. So purge the distractions, purify your motives. Strip away the layers of people leasing fear and compromise, and come before God with a heart that says, whatever it takes, make me aligned. Because when God moves, he doesn't just give you new surroundings, he gives you new vision. You begin to see what you couldn't see before. You begin to discern what others miss, and that clarity will cost you. It will isolate you. It will burden you with responsibility. But it will also liberate you. It will anchor you. It will guide you through the storm with unwavering peace, because now you are not moving for approval. You are moving in step with the Almighty. And understand, this alignment requires warfare. The moment you align with God, you declare war on everything that once had access to your life. Darkness will push back. Old temptations will whisper. Doubt will rise like a flood. But do not retreat. Do not panic. God has already gone before you. You are not fighting for victory. You are fighting from victory. The moment you said yes to God's movement, heaven stood with you. And even if no one else understands, even if they mock you, even if they walk away, you keep moving. You keep obeying because you're not following feelings. You're following fire. the fire of God's presence, the fire of His leading, the fire of His call. There is a remnant rising, those who are not seeking fame but favor, not applause but alignment. And if you're hearing these words, you are likely part of that remnant. God didn't choose you because you were the most polished. He chose you because you said yes. And now your yes must become a lifestyle. Your yes must be louder than your excuses, louder than your fears, louder than your critics, because your yes carries generations inside of it. What you align with today will bless those who come after you. The alignment of one obedient soul can break curses, open gates, and shift entire bloodlines. So don't take this lightly. Don't think your obedience is small. Every quiet act of surrender is a roar in the realm of the unseen. Every time you walk away from what is easy to choose what is holy, you align deeper with God's will. And every time you say no to what your flesh wants and yes to what your soul needs, you're stepping into divine power. Power that cannot be earned. Power that cannot be bought. Power that only comes to those who are fully yielded to God's movement. You must be willing to live different, to walk alone if you have to stand when everyone else sits, to believe when others doubt, because alignment is costly, but disobedience is deadly. And the consequences of missing God's timing are far greater than the discomfort of walking by faith. So choose today. Choose to align. Choose to trust. Choose to go a lean. Because when God moves and you move with Him, you become unstoppable. Not because of who you are, but because of who you're walking with. And do not forget, God does not reveal everything at once. He leads you step by step, day by day, season by season, and you must learn to be content with the mystery, to walk even when you don't see. Because alignment is not about knowing, it's about trusting. And those who trust God in the unknown will see Him in ways others never will. That's the promise of divine alignment. Not comfort, but closeness. Not ease, but presence. And in the presence of God there is power. In the presence of God there is clarity. In the presence of God there is peace that surpasses understanding. So fix your eyes, guard your heart, sharpen your ears, because God is speaking, God is moving. And if you are aligned, truly aligned, you will not miss it. You will not fall behind. You will not be overwhelmed. You will walk in supernatural rhythm. You will move with boldness, with clarity, with divine authority, because you have chosen not to walk ahead, not to walk behind, but to walk in perfect step with God's movement. And that is the highest calling. That is the greatest privilege, to be one with the will of God, to move when He moves, to speak when He speaks, to act when He leads. Nothing else matters. Nothing else compares. So let your life be a declaration of alignment. Let your soul burn with obedience. Let every part of you cry out, "Not my will, but yours, O God." And let that cry become your compass, your foundation, your covering. Because when God sees a life truly surrendered, He pours without measure. He leads without pause. He blesses without limit, and He moves with such power that nothing on earth or in the heavens can stop what He has ordained. That is the reward of alignment. That is the blessing of walking in step with God. And now, as the flame of truth continues to burn in your heart, let it be known, when God begins to move, He will not ask for your preferences. He will demand your purity. Because alignment is not only about what you are walking toward, but also about what you are willing to walk away from. You cannot hold on to bitterness and expect peace. You cannot cling to fear and expect boldness. You cannot serve two masters and expect power from the one who commands all creation. Alignment is a line drawn in the spirit, a decisive, deliberate choice to say, God, you alone lead my life. When God begins to elevate you, He will expose the weights, the hidden compromises, the silent idols, the buried habits, because elevation without purification is destruction in disguise. God will not take you to heights where your character cannot sustain you. He will not place a crown on a head that refuses to bow. So if you feel pressure in this season, if you feel the squeeze, the breaking, the refining, it is not punishment, it is preparation. God is aligning your inner life to carry out victory. Because what you carry in secret will either support or sabotage what God wants to reveal in public. There is a reason the preparation is hidden. Because the most sacred moves of God are formed in secret. Before God moves through you, He moves in you. Before He opens the door, He checks the heart. Before He brings the increase, He tests the integrity. And you must pass that test, not with grand gestures, but with quiet obedience. When no one is watching, when no one applauds, when every part of your flesh wants to quit, but your spirit whispers, stay faithful. That is where alignment is forged in the unseen, in the uncelebrated, in the unseen trenches of obedience. And don't think that because the process is silent, the outcome will be small. No, child of God, when God begins to move, He works from the inside out. He starts deep so that what is built cannot be shaken. And when the foundation is divine, the structure will not collapse. The fruit will last. The blessings will not turn into burdens because they are rooted in obedience and grown through discipline. Listen well. Alignment is not always rewarded immediately. It may not bring applause, it may not earn approval, but it brings authority, the authority that cannot be imitated, the authority that cannot be earned through image or influence. This authority comes from walking in step with the Creator of all things. It comes from having nothing to prove and everything to protect. It comes from knowing that your help comes from God, not from people, not from systems, not from man-made platforms, but from the one who sees in secret and rewards in His perfect time. When God begins to move, it becomes dangerous to remain neutral. Neutrality in the face of divine instruction is rebellion dressed in passivity. You must choose your posture. You must decide where you stand. You must declare with your actions, your discipline, your focus, that you will move with God no matter what it costs. Because neutrality robs momentum. Delayed obedience is disobedience. And if you know God is stirring, if you feel the pull in your soul, then this is not the time to weigh options. This is the time to surrender fully and respond boldly. Some of you have been circling the same mountain, praying for breakthrough, crying out for direction, but God is waiting for your feet to move. You want confirmation, but God is calling for action. You want signs in the sky, but God has already spoken to your spirit. And until you move, the next step will remain hidden. God does not give blueprints to those who refuse to build. He does not open the heavens to those who won't take the first step on earth. So walk, move, go forward, not blindly but boldly, with full faith that if God has begun to move, then every step forward is a step into destiny. And let me tell you, when you begin to walk in alignment, your atmosphere will change. Your circle will shrink. Not everyone can stay connected to someone who walks in step with God, because your movement will convict their stagnation. Your clarity will expose their confusion. Your peace will frustrate their chaos. Don't dim your light to make others comfortable. Stay aligned. Stay true. Let your life be a mirror that reflects the holiness of God and a fire that ignites obedience in others. When God moves, he moves with precision. There is no randomness in his leading. Even the detours are divine. Even the delays are loaded with destiny. Nothing is wasted when you are aligned. Every pain has a purpose. Every battle has a blessing. Every trial is wrapped in wisdom. You may not understand it now, but trust that God does. And what you survive in alignment, you will later speak about in power. You will testify not just about what happened, but about who God became to you in the middle of it all. Alignment births intimacy. When you walk closely with God, you begin to recognize his patterns. You begin to anticipate his movement. You begin to discern what others cannot see. That is why spiritual alignment is not merely a command. It is a privilege. You become a partner in the unseen plans of God. You carry not just a dream, but a divine assignment. And when you carry that assignment with reverence, with discipline, with unwavering trust, God surrounds you with favor like a shield. So be warned, misalignment isn't always obvious. Sometimes it comes in the form of distractions that look like opportunities, relationships that feel good but pull you away from God's path, decisions that seem logical but are void of divine instruction. You must learn to test everything by the fire of God's truth, not by your emotions, not by popular opinion, but by the still, unmistakable voice of God that speaks through peace, conviction, and wisdom. Because one wrong turn can delay your journey. One compromise, yes, can cost you years of divine progress. So, guard your path. Guard your focus. Guard your alignment with everything you have. And if you've strayed, return. If you've drifted, repent. It is not too late. The same God who called you then is calling you now. His mercy is wide enough to welcome you back. But come back with humility. Come back with hunger. Come back ready to align completely. Not casually, not occasionally, but continually. Because when God begins to move, he is not looking for part-time obedience. He is searching for those who will say, God, not my will, but yours. Not my plans, but your purpose. Not my pace, but your path. And once you are truly aligned, your life will become an instrument of divine impact. You will walk into rooms carrying the weight of heaven. You will speak and atmospheres will shift. You will pray and mountains will move. You will lead not with pride but with purity, not with ego but with God's authority resting upon you like a mantle of fire. So let this be the season where you stop waiting for the perfect moment and start walking with perfect surrender. Let this be the hour where you cast off everything that hinders and run with endurance the race marked for you by the hand of God alone. Let this be the chapter where your story aligns with God's script. where your days are not wasted in wishful thinking, but lived in radical obedience, because there is no greater calling than to be aligned with the Almighty. No higher purpose than to walk in the rhythm of His will. No deeper joy than to know beyond all doubt that your life is in step with the one who holds the stars in His hands. So move with God. Trust His movement. Guard your alignment and let your every step echo one truth, that your life belongs to God and to God alone. And now let your heart grasp this sacred truth. When God begins to move, your surroundings may not look like a blessing at first. In fact, the first sign that God is realigning your life is often discomfort. Things begin to shift. Routines are interrupted. Familiar doors close, and the ground you once stood on begins to shake. But don't mistake divine disruption for destruction. What looks like chaos to the flesh is often the precise order of God in the spirit. God is not interested in preserving your comfort. He is focused on awakening your calling. There comes a time when you can no longer afford to live reactive to circumstances. You must become responsive to God. That means you stop allowing life to dictate your direction and you start moving by divine instruction. You stop chasing validation and start walking in revelation. When you are aligned with God, your decisions are no longer based on fear, pressure, or public opinion. They are anchored in the certainty that comes from knowing you are being guided by the one who created time, who holds every outcome, who sees beyond every obstacle. You must realize God's movement in your life is not always loud, but it is always purposeful. The most significant shifts often begin with a whisper, a stirring in your soul, a holy unease with where you are, a quiet prompting to leave what's good, to pursue what's ordained. Do not ignore the whispers. Do not silence that inner conviction. God doesn't always come with thunder. Sometimes He speaks through a holy silence, and only those who are spiritually aligned will recognize the weight of that silence. That silence will press on your heart, pull on your spirit, and urge you to shift before the storm even comes. And if you want to stay aligned, when God begins to move, you must become disciplined in the waiting. Waiting is not wasted. When it is filled with worship, when God has you in a season of preparation, do not despise it. Do not rush it. Because what you do while you wait determines whether you'll be ready when the door opens. God doesn't just open doors. He prepares the person who will walk through them. He shapes your character before He releases the call. He tests your motives before He multiplies your reach. So if you feel hidden, thank God. If you feel overlooked, praise Him. Because when God hides you, it is never to withhold, it is to refine. Let this truth echo in your soul. You do not need to force open what God has sealed. And you do not need to remain in what God has already closed. The greatest delays come when people camp out in expired seasons, still holding on to yesterday's instructions while God is waiting for them to obey today's command. Alignment means learning to move on when God has moved on. No, but not in rebellion, not in bitterness, but in faith, trusting that God's plan is never stagnant. It is living, breathing, unfolding with every step of surrendered obedience. It is internal. He moves in your thoughts, in your desires, in the posture of your heart. And if your inner life is out of order, your outer life will always reflect that chaos. That is why God starts with the hidden places. He cleanses your mind, purifies your intentions, reorders your priorities. Because true alignment is not when everything looks right on the outside. It's when everything is right before God on the inside. Alignment begins when your ambitions bow to His authority. When your desires surrender to His direction, when your plans collapse at the feet of His purpose, and when that happens, when God sees a heart that no longer competes with His will, He begins to accelerate what was once delayed. What took years in the natural can unfold in moments when your life becomes fully aligned. The doors you couldn't pry open in your strength will swing wide when God knows you're ready. Because He is not only preparing the blessing for you, He is preparing you for the blessing. And when the time is right, when the vessel is purified, when the heart is ready, God moves without hesitation. Suddenly the waiting turns to walking. The silence turns to sound. The wilderness turns to rivers. And what you thought would never happen becomes the very thing God manifests before your eyes. But this kind of divine release can only be sustained by continued alignment. You must live guarded, not paranoid but discerning, not fearful but alert, because not everything that glitters is from God. Not every open door is divine. Some doors are traps in disguise, crafted to look like opportunity, but designed to pull you out of alignment. That is why you must constantly return to the secret place, where your discernment is sharpened, where your flesh is silenced, where your spirit is tuned to the voice of God. You cannot afford to lead yourself. You must be led. And to be led, you must be quiet enough to hear. There is a rhythm to divine alignment, a sacred pace. And when you move with God, you don't stumble in haste. You walk in peace. You don't chase. God brings what's meant for you. You don't force. God flows. This is not the rhythm of the world. The world glorifies speed. God values surrender. The world applauds noise. God works in stillness. The world pushes you to be seen. God develops you in secret. And when you finally emerge, it is not with arrogance. It is with awe of what God has done. Awe of how He kept you. Awe of how He used even your brokenness as part of the story. So walk in reverence, speak with restraint, listen more than you demand, because a soul aligned with God doesn't strive to impress. It longs to obey. It doesn't seek titles, it seeks truth. And when your inner world is aligned with God's holiness, everything else begins to fall into divine order. You don't have to beg for favor. It finds you. You don't have to chase peace. It anchors you. You don't have to manipulate outcomes. God settles things you never even knew needed resolution. And I speak now to the one who has felt overlooked, undervalued, unseen. God has not forgotten you. You are not behind. You are not late. You are in His hands. And if you remain aligned even in silence, even in hardship, even in obscurity, He will raise you at the right time. He will honor what was built in the fire. He will breathe on what was formed in prayer. And what no man could take credit for will become the mark of God's movement in your life, increasing your freedom. And if God promised to encounter all your robots, you will be screaming to stay the course. Never grow tired of doing what is right. Don't trade your faithful place of obedience for a fleeting seat at a table God never invited you to. Your prize is not measured by worldly applause. It is the nod of the one who watches from heaven's heights and perceives what human eyes cannot. Keep your hands undefiled, Dumal. Keep your heart meek. Keep moving forward, and let being aligned with God be your chief aim. For when all is finished, what will count is not the distance you traveled in human sight, but how near you walked beside the one who called you. If you truly walked with God, then you have walked into the fullness of your purpose. That is true alignment. That is your legacy. Before the flood of breakthrough is released, God often takes his chosen through the wilderness, not as punishment, not as delay, but as preparation for the weight of glory ahead. Many ask God for a breakthrough without realizing that before he gives the great, he must first shape the vessel to carry it. God does not pour living water into a vessel that is cracked. He mends, he purifies, he restores. And only then does he release. If it feels like you are waiting endlessly, if it feels like life has pulled you back while others surge forward, know this: you are not overlooked. You are being shaped by the hands of the Almighty for something greater than your imagination. And that shaping often feels like solitude. When God intends to raise you higher, he begins by setting you apart. He removes the props you once leaned on, the people you once trusted, the patterns that once defined you. Because where God is taking you, old crutches will not carry you. Old mindsets will not sustain you. Old surroundings will not support you. So he removes, he prunes, he cuts back, and in those moments you may cry. You may ask God, why am I alone? Why does it feel like no one understands me? But that's the holy preparation. That is God crafting a stronger, bolder, wiser version of you in the hidden places far from the applause of the crowd. The womb of preparation is dark, but it is sacred. When God is preparing you for a breakthrough, he teaches you to walk by faith, not by sight. You won't always see evidence of progress. You won't always feel growth. But God is not building you on emotion. He is building you on endurance. Because breakthroughs don't just demand excitement, they demand strength. Strength of character, strength of conviction, strength of obedience. And God builds that strength in the silent. When the phone doesn't ring, when the doors stay shut, when the answers don't come, that's when God is building something deeper inside you. Trust becomes more than a word. It becomes your daily bread. God will often allow resistance to build your resilience. Don't despise the opposition. Don't curse the storm. Don't run from the fire, because it's in the furnace of affliction that God forges champions. Look at the patterns of divine preparation throughout time. Every chosen one before the blessing went through the breaking. That breaking is not a sign of failure. It is the fingerprint of God molding you into someone who can carry the breakthrough. God does not give precious things to those who are untested, because the destiny he has for you requires a new dimension of strength that comfort will never provide. In the stillness, God teaches you to hear his voice. He removes distractions. He silences the noise so that when he speaks, you will not confuse his voice with your fears, your flesh, or the world. That clarity is critical because when the breakthrough comes, when the opportunity opens, you must know what direction to go. And if you haven't learned to hear him in the quiet, you won't recognize him in the chaos. God trains your ears before he trains your feet. He speaks in whispers before he moves in wonders. And those who listen in the silence will lead in the storm. There are seasons where God will allow delay to develop your discipline. You ask, why hasn't it happened yet? Why hasn't the door opened? Why haven't I received what I prayed for? And God answers not with noise, but with time. Because in that delay, he is teaching you the value of patience. He is weaning you off of entitlement. He is showing you that you are not in control, and that is a holy lesson. God delays not to discourage, but to deepen. He lets you sit in the space between promise and fulfillment to test your endurance, your gratitude, and your worship. Will you praise God before the breakthrough? Will you trust him when there is no sign of movement? Because if you can worship him in the waiting, you are ready for the blessing. God often hides you before he reveals you. He conceals your gifts, your calling, your potential. Not because he doesn't want the world to see it, but because the foundation must be set in secret. If the world sees you before God has strengthened you, it can crush you. But if God sees you before the world does, you will rise unshakable. God hides his best work. He molds the diamond in the dirt. He builds the warrior in the wilderness. You may feel unseen, but you are not forgotten. You are in the hands of the master builder. And when he is finished, the world will see what he has known all along, that you were destined for the breakthrough. During this preparation, God will remove things you thought you needed. He will strip away relationships, opportunities, and even identities you held on to. And in the moment, it may feel like loss, but it's not destruction, it's construction. God cannot build a new life on old foundations. So he clears the ground. He removes the faulty bricks. He exposes the cracks in your character, the pride in your heart, the fears you've masked with performance. He takes it all not to shame you, but to shape you. Because the next season requires a stronger structure. And when he builds to last, but will stretch your faith. He will ask you to walk on waters you've never stepped on. He will ask you to trust him with outcomes you cannot predict. And this is where many give up. But if you hold on, if you trust that God is not a liar, that his plan is not faulty, that his timing is not late, you will see the reward. The pressure you feel now is not punishment, it is preparation. Just as a seed breaks before it grows, just as muscles tear before they strengthen, so must your spirit be stretched before its sources. God is not trying to break you. He is trying to birth something through you. There are times when God will allow you to face closed doors, doors you prayed for, doors you fought for, just to teach you that not every door is divine. He wants you to stop chasing what you think is best and start trusting that he knows what is best. Closed doors are not rejection, they are redirection. They're a signal from heaven that God is guarding your destiny. Sometimes what you think is a blessing is actually a burden in disguise. And so God steps in. He intervenes. He says, no, not to withhold, but to protect. And if you trust him in the no, you'll be ready for the yes. God's preparation also includes exposure, not of others, but of yourself. He shows you who you really are, not who you pretend to be, not who others think you are, but the raw version of your heart, the motives, the pride, the hidden wounds. And in that exposure, you are called to change, to repent, to grow. because God cannot elevate a heart that is still clinging to self. He will bless the humble. He will bless the humble. He will praise the yielded, but the proud he resists. So he prepares you by refining you. He teaches you to surrender not just your dreams but your ego, because the blessing ahead is too big for a self-centered soul. And in your preparation season, God will test your obedience. He will ask you to do things that make no sense. To forgive someone who hurt you, to give when you are lacking, to speak when you want to stay silent, to stay when you want to run. These tests are not random. They are divinely designed, because obedience is the currency of breakthrough. God does not bless rebellion. He blesses obedience, and those who obey in the small things will be trusted with the great things. So don't ignore the nudge. Don't dismiss the instruction. Every act of obedience is a step closer to your breakthrough. Sometimes God prepares you by allowing you to be misunderstood. People will question your motives. They will mock your decisions. They will label you based on their limited perception. But God allows it not to humiliate you, but to humble you, to teach you that your approval does not come from man. It comes from Him alone. He allows the false accusations, the gossip, the rejection, not to destroy you, but to detach you from the need for validation. That when you no longer need the crowd's applause, you are ready to walk in the fullness of God's plan. Because breakthrough demands focus, and focus is forged in the fire of isolation. God prepares you by healing you. He digs up old wounds. He brings hidden pain to the surface. He confronts the bitterness you buried, because you cannot walk into a new season carrying old poison. You cannot rise while weighed down by what broke you in the past. So God heals not with speed but with precision. He breaks open the scarred places so that true restoration can happen. And when the healing is complete, you will look back and realize that what once hurt you, God used to help you. What once made you weep, God used to make you wise. In this sacred preparation, God is not just building a future for you. He is building you for the future. He is creating a vessel that can handle the blessing without being destroyed by it. He is forging character that won't crumble under pressure. He is establishing a foundation that won't shake when the winds come, because the breakthrough that is coming is not small. It is not light. It is not ordinary. It is a divine shift. A supernatural turning point, a life-altering release. And only those who have been prepared can carry it without being crushed by the weight of glory. When God prepares you for a major breakthrough, He doesn't just shift your circumstances, He shifts you. He changes how you think, how you speak, how you respond, how you carry yourself. Because if your mindset is still rooted in fear and scarcity and self-doubt, then the breakthrough will only overwhelm you. So God begins by reshaping your thoughts. He teaches you to think with clarity, to see through faith, to speak with wisdom. He teaches you to speak life over death, purpose over pain, and victory over defeat, even when your surroundings are shouting otherwise. Because those who are prepared by God learn to align their words with His will, not with their worries. God trains your spirit to discern the hidden battles. In the preparation, He sharpens your spiritual senses. You start to recognize deception where you once saw charm. You start to sense danger where others see opportunity. God opens your inner eyes so that you no longer walk blindly through life, because the next level requires vision. And those who are truly prepared are not moved by what they see in the natural. They are led by what they discern in the unseen. God teaches you to trust His promptings over the pressure of the crowd. He trains you to move when He says move, to wait when He says wait, and to let go when He says let go, even if you don't understand it in the moment. And this divine training is often uncomfortable. When God prepares you for breakthrough, He exposes your dependence not to shame you, but to set you free from it. You realize you are leaning on your job for identity, on people for value, on routines for safety. And God in His mercy removes every false foundation, because He knows that only those who stand on Him alone will stand through the shaking that follows a breakthrough. He wants to be your source, not your supplement. So He gently but firmly pry your fingers off of what you thought you needed, and invites you to anchor your life in His strength, His wisdom, His plan. God's preparation includes the battlefield of the mind. Doubts will come like floods, fear will whisper lies in the quiet, and the enemy will try to convince you that you're not good enough, not strong enough, not worthy enough. But God allows this battlefield to rise not to destroy you, but to teach you warfare. He teaches your hands to fight and your heart to endure. He doesn't remove every storm. He equips you to stand through it, because when the breakthrough arrives, the attacks won't stop, they will increase. So God trains you now in the hidden battles so that you are not blindsided later. He makes you battle-tested, not battle-wounded. In this sacred season of preparation, God begins to align your relationships. He brings the right people into your life. Not those who flatter your flesh, but those who sharpen your spirit. He disconnects you from those who drain your energy, who feed your weakness, who speak doubt into your calling. And though it may feel like betrayal, it is divine mercy, because your breakthrough cannot be contaminated by disloyalty, jealousy, or spiritual laziness. So God surrounds you with those who speak truth, who call you higher, who pray when others talk, who correct you when you stray. This is not coincidence, it is divine orchestration, because who walks with you in the next season will influence what you carry. And God does not just prepare you emotionally or mentally, He prepares you spiritually. He deepens your prayer life. He makes you hunger for communion with Him. You begin to crave time in His presence more than any other pursuit, because intimacy with God is the foundation of true strength. And in that sacred space of stillness, God downloads strategy, peace, insight, and courage. You stop praying surface prayers and you start crying out from the depths. You stop asking for things and start asking for His will. You stop rushing and you start listening. This shift is what separates those who wander from those who walk with purpose. God bursts purpose in prayer, and those who are prepared know that breakthrough starts on their knees. God also prepares you through tests of integrity. He gives you moments when no one is watching and asks, will you still choose what's right? He allows opportunities where you could take shortcuts, manipulate outcomes, or lie to advance. But those moments are not accidents. They are exams, because what you do in secret will echo in the next season. If you pass the test of integrity in the dark, God will trust you with influence in the light. You don't become trustworthy by accident. You become trustworthy by choosing truth over convenience. And God will not release a major breakthrough into the hands of someone who cannot be trusted with righteousness. Sometimes the preparation looks like a loss, but in reality it's a launch. You may lose income, lose friends, lose stability. But pay attention. God is not subtracting. He is positioning. He is moving pieces, shifting the train, clearing the pathway for what he is about to release. And if you focus only on what's being removed, you'll miss what's being revealed. So lift your eyes above the storm. Look past the disappointment, because the very thing that felt like a setback is actually the runway for a divine takeoff. God never takes without giving better. He never removes without replacing with something more aligned, more powerful, more holy. In this divine refinement, you will begin to hear the voice of God with new clarity. You will wake up with divine idea. You will dream dreams that carry messages. You will walk into rooms and feel spiritual shifts. And this sensitivity is not given lightly. It is given through surrender. When God sees that you value his voice above all, he will speak to you in ways that guide your every step. This is how the prepared live, not by sight, not by opinion, but by the whisper of God in their soul. And when that whisper comes, they move without hesitation, because the breakthrough is not just for them, it is through them. And the beauty of God's preparation is that it's never wasted. Every tear you cried, he collected. Every night you felt forgotten, he recorded. Every moment you chose faith over fear, he honored. God wastes nothing. He uses everything. The pain, the loss, the confusion. It all becomes part of the foundation. And when a breakthrough arrives, it will not just be about the blessing. It will be about the journey. You will look back and realize that the preparation was the promotion, that the waiting was the molding, that the valley was the training ground for the mountaintop. This is not the time to retreat. This is not the season to complain. This is the moment to press in deeper, to pray harder, to walk stronger, because God is not through with you. He is just getting started. The greater the preparation, the greater the purpose. And if the fire feels hot, it means the gold within you is about to shine. The breakthrough will come suddenly, but it will only come to those who have been forged. When God prepares you for a major breakthrough, he is not merely arranging circumstances. He is orchestrating transformation. He is not simply adjusting your surrounding. He is adjusting you. He's not sending the breakthrough to make your life easier. He's sending it to elevate your purpose, to assign you to something weightier, something more divine. But first, he must ensure that your character can carry what your mouth has prayed for. The blessing must not outpace your spiritual maturity. So God slows things down, not because he is late, but because he is precise. Every delay is an act of divine mercy. Every pause is preparation, disguised as stillness. You see, God doesn't just want to answer your prayer. He wants to align your soul with the purpose of the answer. Many cry out for breakthrough, but few are willing to become the kind of person that breakthrough requires. So God begins the sacred work of undoing who you used to be. He breaks the patterns that once ruled your thoughts. He confronts the habits that once ruled your actions. He challenges the beliefs that once ruled your identity, because your old nature cannot carry this new calling. You are not being punished. You are being purified. You are being reshaped into a vessel of clarity, focus, and fire. And it is during this process that you will feel the weight of surrender pressing down on you. God will ask you to release things you thought you couldn't live without. He will ask you to lay down dreams that were born from ego and not from purpose. He will call you to abandon shortcuts and temptations that look right in the moment but lead to destruction. And if your heart is truly set on receiving what only God can give, you must pass through this holy fire of surrender. Because God cannot bless what is half committed. He cannot elevate what still clings to compromise. He calls for full submission, not partial cooperation. There will be moments when God's preparation feels like contradiction. You'll sense something great is coming, but everything around you will feel like it's falling apart. You'll feel pregnant with vision, yet surrounded by opposition. That tension is holy. That contradiction is divine. Because God allows pressure before promotion. He allows you to be placed under pressure not to crush you, but to draw out the oil within. Just as the olive must be broken to release its richest flow, your life too must be pressed to reveal what is most sacred inside. The anointing that shatters yokes does not come from human applause, but through trials. And those who endure the process carry an authority that cannot be imitated. God's shaping also sharpens your discernment. Not every open door is one God has ordained. Without preparation, you risk mistaking distractions for blessings. But when the Spirit trains your heart, you begin to see with clarity. You look past the surface. You start asking, does this draw me nearer to God or lead me astray? Does this serve my calling or just inflate my pride? Discernment becomes a shield guarding your breakthrough from corruption. It anchors your heart when the spotlight shines on you. It quiets the noise so you can still hear God's whisper in the crowd. And as He prepares you, He enlarges your capacity. He stretches your endurance. He deepens your patience. He fortifies your determination. Why? Because the weight of the breakthrough is not light. Blessings carry responsibility. Open doors come with new devils. Elevation invites greater spiritual warfare, and if you are not equipped, you will collapse under the very thing you once begged for. So God tests your limits not to break you, but to build you. He expands your heart to love deeper. He broadens your mind to think higher. He increases your faith to believe bigger. He enlarges your spirit so that when the breakthrough comes, you are not intimidated by its magnitude. There are days when God prepares you in solitude. In those quiet seasons, you'll feel invisible to the world, but seen completely by Him. You'll look around and wonder why others are advancing while you remain still. But understand this, the deeper the foundation, the taller the building. God is not keeping you hidden to punish you. He is fortifying your roots because the storm will always reveal what was built on sand and what was built on rock. The breakthrough is not just about what you gain, it's about what you can withstand. And those who have been hidden in God will not be shaken when the winds rise. In preparation, God may ask you to walk away from familiar places. Environments that once felt comfortable may begin to feel constricting. Conversations that once excited you may now exhaust you. Habits that once entertained you will now convict you. That is not you becoming cold. It is you becoming cold. God is elevating your sensitivity to the sacred. He is drawing you away from noise so that he can deposit revelation. He is disrupting your rhythm so that he can realign your steps. Because the higher the calling, the narrower the road, and those who are called must learn to walk alone before they can lead many. God's preparation also includes excellence in the small. If you are not faithful with little, you will not be trusted with much. And so he will test you in your daily assignments. Will you show up with diligence when no one is watching? Will you complete your task with excellence even when it feels insignificant? Because those who cannot be trusted in the shadows will never be elevated to the light. Your breakthrough is not earned by size. It is honored by stewardship. Show God that you can honor the quiet season, and he will honor you in the public one. The spotlight doesn't reveal your potential. It exposes your preparation. You may be tempted to rush the process. You may want to skip the pruning, skip the silence, skip the storm. But if you short-circuit what God is doing in your preparation, you will step into a breakthrough who you are not ready to sustain. And what begins as a blessing can quickly become a burden. God loves you too much to release it prematurely. He is not slow. He is wise. He doesn't follow your timeline. He follows his divine blueprint. So trust the slowness, trust the stillness, trust the unseen hand that is crafting a future far more stable than anything you could build on your own. Let your heart absorb this truth. God is never idle. Even when nothing around you seems to move, heaven is working. Your prayers are not in vain. Your discipline is not wasted. Your waiting is not meaningless. Every act of faith, every choice to obey, every time you choose character over convenience, it all matters. It is all counted. And when the breakthrough finally arrives, you will step into it not with surprise, but with strength, not with confusion, but with clarity, not with panic, but with power. Because you will know that the preparation shaped you into a vessel worthy of the miracle. When God prepares a soul for a breakthrough, he doesn't simply look at your desire, he measures your endurance. Because what is coming isn't just an answer to prayer. It's a shift in destiny. And destiny does not rest on feeling. Destiny rests on faith. There are moments in preparation where everything will appear still, even stagnant. But don't let silence make you doubt the sacred. God often does his greatest work in the deepest silence. The seed makes no sound as it breaks open underground. The roots make no noise as they stretch deep into the earth. But they are growing, they are stabilizing. And soon that unseen work will push into the light. So it is with your preparation. When you don't see progress, God is still producing you. You must understand this. When God is preparing you, he is not simply answering what you want. He is developing who you must become. Breakthroughs are not handed to those who merely wish for them, but to those who are ready to carry them. And readiness is not comfort, it is consecration. God is cleansing your motives, refining your focus, deepening your wisdom, your true work. He is teaching you that power without purpose is dangerous, that blessing without maturity is destructive, and that elevation without humility is deadly. So God in his mercy delays what your pride might demand. Until your heart becomes a vessel He can fully trust. There will be days when the weight of waiting will feel heavier than the battle itself. You will be tempted to compare your process to others. You'll see others celebrate it while you remain concealed. But remember, what is rushed is rarely rooted. God is not raising you up to be popular. He is raising you up to be planted. And planted things grow in silence, not spotlight. The deeper your roots, the stronger your rise. And God knows how high your breakthrough will elevate you. So He must make sure you are anchored in Him alone. That means removing idols you didn't even know existed. Your need for recognition, your addiction to validation, your dependence on outcomes. God clears the soil of your soul before He waters the seed of destiny. Preparation also comes with exposure, not of others, but of yourself. God will allow moments where your weaknesses surface, not to shame you, but to strengthen you. He reveals the cracks before the structure is built. He points to the wounds that still bleed under pressure. He shows you the fear that still lurks in the shadows of your decisions. And it is in this holy revealing that God begins His healing. The path to breakthrough isn't through pretending you're perfect. It's through surrendering what's broken. God will not bless what you hide. He blesses what you hand over. So let the refining fire do its work. Because when you are made whole in the hidden place, no battle in the open can shake you. God will also test your loyalty in the waiting. He will ask, will you remain faithful even when there is no visible reward? Because true faithfulness isn't proven by applause. It's proven by consistency. Do you still pray when there's no breakthrough? Do you still serve when there's no recognition? Do you still obey when the outcome is uncertain? God is not watching how loud you shout in the moment of hope. He is watching how quietly you walk in the discipline of hope. Because faith that lasts isn't emotional. It's intentional. God prepares those who can be trusted in every season, not just the ones that feel easy. And then there is the stripping. Yes, God strips. He removes what no longer serves your purpose. He peels away layers of pride, fear, comfort, and compromise. Not to leave you bare, but to clothe you in spiritual authority. He removes the identity shaped by the world, so He can reveal the identity shaped by His wisdom. That's why people may not recognize you anymore. That's why old conversations feel foreign. That's why what used to excite you now feels empty. You're not broken. You're being rebuilt. The discomfort is not destruction. It is divine transformation. And once God finishes, you will no longer walk as who you were, but as who you were always meant to be. In this season, God will begin to increase your discernment, not just toward others, but toward yourself. You'll start to see your tendencies, your patterns, your defaults under pressure. He will show you where you self-sabotage, where you delay your own growth, where you make excuses instead of progress. And that kind of truth isn't always easy to face, but it's necessary because your breakthrough isn't just about what's coming. It's about what needs to go. And God, in His love, will confront you before He promotes you. He will call you to accountability before He calls you to influence. Because to carry what he's about to place in your hands, you must walk with clarity and conviction. And perhaps the most sacred part of God's preparation is this. He teaches you to love the process more than the promise. You stop chasing breakthrough just for the reward. You begin to embrace it for the refinement. Because the longer you walk with God, the more you understand that the true blessing is not just in the arrival, it's in the alignment. It's not just what he gives you, it's who you become through the fire, through the silence, through the waiting. And in that realization you find peace. Because even if the breakthrough delays, you are already being transformed. God's preparation is a holy orchestration of unseen victories. Every time you resist temptation, you are being prepared. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you are being prepared. Every time you say no to distraction, yes to purpose, yes to obedience, you are being refined into a vessel of power, of endurance, of divine authority. The breakthrough is not just something you receive. It is something you are being built into. And when God says now, it won't just be a moment. It will be a manifestation of everything he's been doing in secret. There comes a time in every soul's journey where the silence of God becomes louder than the noise of the world. That's not abandonment. It's divine attention. It's in those moments when the heavens feel quiet that God is actually working the hardest. He is not absent. He is deeply, intricately present, crafting, refining, and stretching your spirit to handle what eyes have not seen and ears have not. He is shaping you to walk into a future that your present cannot comprehend. This is why you must learn to walk by trust, not by evidence. Because the absence of visible movement is not the absence of God's presence. It is the space where he builds your inner fire. God does not train you for ordinary living. He trains you for spiritual dominion. He doesn't just want you to pass through seasons. He wants you to reign over them. And reigning doesn't begin with power. It begins with process. God prepares rulers in the shadows. He builds spiritual authority in the wilderness. He molds the voice that will shift atmospheres in the backside of obscurity. Because if your spirit is not anchored in him, success will shake you, attention will ruin you, and influence will corrupt you. So he buries you in prayer. He buries you in humility. He buries you in discipline until your soul learns that invisibility with God is better than visibility without him. You may find yourself wrestling in this season, wrestling with doubt, with timing, with fatigue. But understand this. God allows the wrestle not to break your faith, but to make it immovable. He stretches your spiritual muscles through struggle. He reveals your true hunger in the drought. He awakens your fire in the pressure. Because breakthrough is not light, it is heavy. It carries weight, responsibility, and influence. And God does not give weighty things to weak foundations. That's why he doesn't just build blessings, he builds backbone. He doesn't just teach you how to dream. He teaches you how to endure. Your faith must be prepared to hold the very thing you prayed for. Because what good is a gift if it breaks you when you receive it? That's why God spends more time working on you than working on the thing itself. He sharpens your mind. He cleanses your heart. He restores your focus. He removes the residue of past pain, so you don't drag old wounds into a new season. He breaks cycles that you didn't even know were holding you hostage. Because when the door opens, when the calling activates, when the assignment becomes public, you must be ready not just to receive, but to sustain. There's a divine reason God often takes the long route. It's not because he forgot the shortcut. It's because he knows that shortcuts produce shallow roots, and shallow roots can't survive storms. So while others sprint ahead with speed, God walks you with depth. He buries truth so deep in your spirit that when the winds come, and they will come, you will not sway. You will not bow. You will not fold. Because God did not raise you to be popular. He raised you to be planted. Planted in faith, planted in purpose, planted in truth. And here's what you must realize. Preparation is not punishment. It is protection. God is shielding you from premature exposure. He is guarding your destiny from contamination. He knows the traps ahead that you cannot yet see. So he holds you back until the ground has been cleared. He removes people who would have derailed your future. He closes doors that would have robbed your peace. And in your disappointment, you may cry out, "Why, God?" But when you're standing in the middle of your breakthrough with no bitterness, no baggage, and no burdens, then you will know why God's no was not a denial. It was a defense. In his preparation, God awakens a holy sensitivity. He trains your ears to hear what others miss. He sharpens your spirit to detect danger in disguise. He heightens your awareness of divine timing. Because when your moment comes, it will not come with fanfare. It will come in a whisper. And if you have not learned to listen, you will miss it. Those who are truly prepared by God become masters of the invisible battle. They know how to fight without noise. They know how to move without announcing. They know how to pray when others panic. And that is the power of God's preparation. It births quiet warriors who shake the very gates of opposition with their stillness. You may think your current position disqualifies you, but what disqualifies you in the eyes of men often qualifies you in the plan of God. He doesn't look at your resume. He looks at your resilience. He doesn't measure your resources. He measures your readiness. And readiness is not about having it all together. It's about trusting God even when everything feels like it's falling apart. Because trust is the foundation of every breakthrough. Not strategy, not talent, not popularity. Trust. Deep, raw, unshakable trust in the one who holds your outcome. Hear me. Your future salvation is not in God. God also uses pain as a preparation tool. Not because he enjoys your suffering, but because he understands what pain produces. Pain purifies. Pain sharpens. Pain ignites. Pain pushes you closer to your core, where all the pretending fades and only truth remains. God uses your tears to water the soil of your next season. He uses your loss to teach you detachment. He uses your failure to destroy your pride. He allows heartbreak to strip you of false expectations. And when all that is left is a soul leaning on God alone, that's when the breakthrough is nearest. That's when the light begins to crack through the darkness. God prepares you to walk in peace before you walk in power. Because what good is influence if it costs you your inner calm? What good is a platform if you carry anxiety to every stage? So he teaches you peace in the waiting. He teaches you peace in the pressure. He teaches you to sleep when the storm rages and to smile when the crowd leaves. That kind of peace is not learned through books. It is birthed through brokenness. And once you possess it, nothing can steal it, because peace rooted in God is unshakable. And only those who are prepared will know what it means to walk through fire without burning, through waters without drowning. There is a hidden richness in the preparation of God that many overlook. Because we are so focused on arrival, we forget that the journey is sacred. Every step, every pause, every wrestle, every prayer, it's holy ground. God walks with you, not just to lead you to the promise, but to reveal who He is along the way. And those who truly embrace the preparation come out not just with a blessing, but with a revelation, a deeper awareness of God's presence, a clearer vision of His power, a stronger bond with His guidance. And that is worth more than anything breakthrough could bring. In this divine preparation, God teaches you to guard your gate. Not everything deserves access to your spirit. Not every voice should be allowed to speak into your future. Not every emotion should have a seat in your decisions. God shows you the power of boundaries. He trains you to discern the difference between what is good and what is God ordained. Many fall not because they were uncalled, but because they were unfiltered. They allowed too many opinions, too much noise, too many distractions to enter the sacred chamber of their calling. But those who are truly prepared by God become gatekeepers of their peace, of their energy, of their time, because they know that breakthrough requires not just strength, but focus. God prepares your spirit to handle delay without discouragement. That's one of the highest tests of faith. To still believe when the wait is long. To still hope when the evidence says otherwise. To still build when the blueprint looks invisible. But it is in that tension that your trust is tested. Those who have been shaped in the waiting rise with a faith untouched by circumstance. It is steady. They don't need signs in the sky. They know change is already on the way. They don't need the crowd to agree. They can stand alone with certainty because God has spoken, and that alone sustains them. So keep moving, keep planting, keep believing, keep yielding. God is not only opening a way, He is shaping you to step through it with fire in your spirit, with wisdom on your lips, with authority in your walk. You are being formed into one who cannot be shaken, who will not be turned aside. Because when the breakthrough comes, it won't be about the gift alone. It will reveal who you have become in the waiting, a vessel of resilience, a pillar of faith, a living witness of what God can do with a surrendered heart. God has said, rest. Everything meant for you will arrive. This is not an invitation to laziness. It is not a license to sit idle. It is a sacred call to settle your heart, steel your soul, and put unshakable trust in the one who never fails. When God speaks, storms bow. When He commands, creation obeys. So when God says relax, it is not optional. It is a holy guarantee that He is moving where you cannot see, setting in place what your eyes have yet to witness, and preparing blessings beyond your imagination. Then why do you worry, beloved? Why let your soul grow weary when God has already declared peace over you? Why pace in the midnight hours, tangled in anxious thoughts, when the King of all creation has sworn to sustain you, provide for you, and finish the work he began? The fight is not yours. The outcome does not depend on your stress, your hustle, or your overthinking. It depends on the God who holds time in his hands and calls every star by name. There is power in stillness. There is glory in surrender. There is victory in patience. But in this world we've been taught to chase, to force, to strive, to panic, because we think everything depends on our next move. We treat God like a backup plan, a last resort after we've tried everything else. But hear this with all the fire of your faith. When God says relax, he's not saying give up. He's saying look up to the heavens where help comes from. Look up to the skies where your prayers have risen. Look up to the throne where your answers are already written. You cannot control what is beyond your reach. You cannot manipulate timing, people, or outcomes. But you can trust. You can believe. You can rest in the mighty arms of God, who has never failed a single soul that depended on him. God said, relax. Not because there's nothing to do, but because he has already done what you could never do. He has opened doors no man can shut. He has softened hearts that were like stone. He has cleared paths where none existed. And he is not done yet. Faith is not just shouting hallelujah in church. Faith is the quiet confidence when the bills are due and the answers are few. Faith is when your eyes see nothing but your heart says God is working. Faith is when you stop rehearsing worst-case scenarios and start declaring divine outcome. Faith is not a mood. It is a mindset. It is the refusal to be moved by what is seen and the unshakable trust in what is spoken by God. But God has told you to relax. Then there is nothing in the universe that can undo what he is bringing to pass. People may delay it, but they cannot destroy it. Circumstances may twist it, but they cannot take it. Your own fears may blur it, but they cannot block it. What God has written for you is sealed, and no amount of anxiety will speed it up. No amount of panic will make it happen faster. You must wait in peace, not in torment. You must wait with assurance, not with fear. Some of you are tired of waiting, tired of hoping, tired of believing. But let me tell you, your tiredness is not a sign to give up. It is a sign that something is close. You're not tired for nothing. You're tired because the breakthrough is near. The enemy fights hardest when heaven is about to deliver. But God says relax, not collapse, not retreat, not fold. Relax, breathe, trust. The pressure you feel is not the end. It is the birth of something new. Many of you have been running, striving, comparing your life to others. You've been watching others prosper and wondering when it will be your turn. But hear me, what God has for you is tailor-made. It cannot be rushed. It cannot be stolen. What others have is not your measurement. What they accomplish is not your timeline. God has his own schedule, his own design. And when he moves, it will happen so suddenly, you'll forget the years of waiting. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to manipulate outcomes. What you need is stillness, spiritual stillness that anchors your soul in the truth that God is faithful. Do you think the one who formed you in the womb would forget your needs? Do you think the one who sustains the sun and moon would overlook your prayers? God is not a man. He does not lie. He does not tease. He does not change his mind. If he said it, he will do it. Relaxing in God is not weakness. It is warfare. It is declaring warfare. It is warfare. It is declaring to the forces of darkness that you will not be shaken. It is standing in the face of delay and saying, I know my God. It is looking at the chaos around you and choosing peace. That peace is a weapon, that stillness is a sword, because the enemy thrives on your. He wants you to believe that time is running out, that God forgot that you missed your chance, but the devil is a liar. Time belongs to God. Destiny belongs to God. And your moment has already been scheduled. Do not confuse movement with progress. Just because others are busy doesn't mean they are blessed. Just because you are still doesn't mean you are stuck. The seed does not shout while it breaks through the soil. The tree does not scream while it bears fruit. God is working silently, deeply beneath the surface. And when it's time, he will raise you up, not by your might, not by your efforts, but by his hand alone. You don't need to worry about who left you, who lied to you, who overlooked you. Let them go. Let him walk, because what God brings to you will never leave. What he ordains for your life is sealed with power. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are hidden. Hidden in God's purpose. Hidden in God's protection. Hidden until the perfect time. That is why he tells you to relax. Because your worry is doing nothing but stealing your joy. Your fear is doing nothing but wasting your strength. And God did not bring you this far to abandon you now. He did not part the Red Sea of your past just to let you drown in the river of your present. Trust him. If he made a way before, he will answer again. The waiting is not punishment. It is preparation. You are being made ready, not just to receive the blessing, but to carry it with wisdom. You are not just waiting for something to happen. God is making something happen in you. And when the blessing comes, it will match your maturity. It will match your strength. It will match the character God has been building in you through every trial, every delay, every sleepless night. So don't rush the process. Don't beg for shortcuts. Don't panic when the door seems closed. When God says, relax, he's telling you the door is not locked. It's just not time. And when the time comes, you won't need to knock twice. You won't need to force anything. It will swing open because God is the one who opens and no man can shut. Let your heart be still. Let your mind be quiet. Let your soul return to its anchor. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to have every answer. What you need is to return to the posture of trust. Trust like a child. Trust like a warrior. Trust like someone who has seen God move before and knows he will do it again. God sees the tears you cry in secret. He hears the prayers you whisper at night. He knows the silent battles you fight that no one else sees. And he is not distant. He is not deaf. He is not idle. He is present, active, and watching. And when the time is right, he will send help that overwhelms you with joy. He will send peace that makes no sense. He will open a floodgate of blessing that will silence every doubt. When God says relax, He is not giving you a temporary escape. He is inviting you into eternal alignment. He is calling you to a life where your soul no longer panics at every delay, where your spirit no longer trembles when things don't go your way. It is a shift, a transformation, a spiritual recalibration. Because when your heart finally lets go of the illusion of control, God takes over in ways you never imagined. God takes over in ways you never imagined. Your surrender becomes the soil where miracles grow. Your stillness becomes the stage where His power is displayed. There is a divine order in God's process. Nothing in your life is random. Not the silence, not the detour, not the people who left, not the door that didn't open. Even what you call failure, God calls preparation. Even the seasons that felt like a wilderness were part of God's holy design to teach you trust, to teach you dependence, to break you free from the chains of human understanding. Because when God is all you have, that's when you discover He is all you need. Some of you have been trying to force what God has already removed. You've been chasing what God has already closed off. And now your soul is tired. But God is saying to you today, stop chasing. Stop striving. Stop trying to fix what was never yours to fix. Relax. Let it fall apart if it must, because God allows things to break only when He is about to rebuild you into something stronger. What you lost was not the end, was the beginning of something greater. God never lets go of His own. Even when you don't understand Him, even when His silence seems unbearable, even when His ways appear hidden behind layers of mystery, He is still with you. He is still guiding the currents of your life with precision and purpose. The delays are not denials. They are divine pauses, meant to position you, to protect you, to prepare you. And sometimes the greatest test of faith is not in action, but in inaction. Can you trust God enough to do nothing but believe? The enemy wants you restless. He wants you exhausted from worry. He wants your mind tormented by the unknown. But God wants you anchored in His word, anchored in His timing, anchored in the unshakable truth that what is meant for you will never pass you by. Not by mistake, not by delay, not by human interference. What God has for you is wrapped in divine security. You don't need to race after it. You only need to remain aligned with Him. And in His time, everything will fall into place. Relaxing in God is not letting life happen to you. It's letting God happen through you. It is not passivity. It is spiritual posture. It is the heart standing firm, even when the winds howl. It is the mind refusing to bow to fear. It is the soul saying, my God knows what He's doing. And that kind of peace, that kind of unwavering confidence only comes from knowing who God is. Not just in theory, but through every battle you've faced, every valley you've walked through, and every tear you've cried. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You are not a mistake. God crafted your life with such care that not even a moment has been wasted. Every disappointment, every delay, every closed door, it has all been part of a divine masterpiece. And just because you don't see the whole painting yet doesn't mean it's not beautiful. Just because the story feels unfinished doesn't mean it's not powerful. God is still moving. And when he's ready, what he brings into your life will make sense of every sleepless night you've ever had. There is power in trusting when you don't see. There is strength in standing still when everything around you screams run. Faith is not the absence of questions. It's the presence of obedience. And God honors the heart that waits with quiet expectation, not with fear, not with desperation, but with bold confidence that says, I don't know how or when, but I know my God will do it. That kind of faith moves mountains. That kind of faith unlocks heaven. When your plans fail, don't panic. God's plan never fails. When people leave, don't beg. God will replace what is lost with what is better. When nothing is working, don't collapse. Sometimes God brings everything to a halt so he can rebuild you with clarity. His ways are not your ways. His thoughts are higher. His timing is perfect. And when he finally releases what he has prepared for you, it will come with no sorrow, no confusion, and no struggle. Only peace, only purpose, only power. Many are asking, when will it happen? When would my life change? But God is asking you, can you relax even now? Can you trust even in the delay? Can you believe even in the silence? Because it's easy to trust when the door opens. It's easy to praise when the miracle comes. But the real test of faith is whether you can still worship in the waiting room, whether you can still walk upright when you don't know what's next, whether you can still bless God even when you're bleeding. And the reward for that kind of trust, it is unspeakable. It is the favor that finds you. It is the breakthrough that overtakes you. It is the provision that meets you where you are. You will not have to run to chase it. It will run to find you. That's what happens when you relax in God. You stop chasing what the world says you need and you start receiving what God knows you need. The difference is everything. The world's pace is panic. God's pace is peace. God doesn't need your fear. He needs your faith. He doesn't need your stress. He needs your surrender. And when you give it to him fully, freely, completely, he begins to shift the entire atmosphere around your life. People you never thought would help you will show up. Opportunities you never imagined will present themselves. Doors you didn't even knock on will open. And all because you trusted. All because you stopped forcing and started flowing with God's perfect will. Don't measure your life by what you can see. Now, what you see is only a shadow of what God is preparing. You may feel stuck, but God is not stuck. You may feel delayed, but God is never late. You may feel like nothing is changing, but God is changing everything quietly, deliberately, eternally. The moment you stop striving and start surrendering is the moment you align yourself with supernatural flow. Not because the journey is over, but because you finally realize you're not walking alone. God is with you in every step, every struggle, every silence. He is guiding even the details you overlook. He is protecting you from things you don't even know are threatening you. And he is working all things together for your good. Not some things, all things. Even your pain, even your waiting, even the parts that don't make sense. This is your time to rest. Not in defeat, but in faith. Not in frustration, but in hope. Because what is ahead of you is greater than what is behind you. God is not finished. He is not done writing your story. And the next chapter will make you weep. Not with sorrow, but with joy so overwhelming, You'll drop to your knees in awe. You will say, God, you did more than I asked, more than I imagined, more than I deserve. That's the kind of ending God writes for those who trust Him completely. And when God tells you to relax, He is not asking you to step away from purpose, but to step into trust. Trust is not passive. Trust is not weakness. Trust is fire-tested strength. Trust is the posture of a soul that refuses to be moved by what the world says, because it has been rooted in what God has spoken. God is not looking for noise, for performance, for panic. God is looking for stillness, because stillness is the language of surrender. And when your soul is surrendered, heaven responds. Heaven does not respond to chaos. Heaven moves in response to faith. You must understand, God is not on your clock. He is not governed by your deadlines. He is not shaken by your emergencies. When God says relax, He is teaching you to release your grip on time. You may think you're late, you may feel like you're behind, but God sees you right on schedule. There is no pressure in heaven. There's no anxiety in the throne room. The God who controls the flow of time is never rushing. The God who sees the end from the beginning knows exactly when and how your breakthrough will come. Stop measuring your worth by what hasn't happened yet. Stop defining your future by the delay you see now. Delay is not denial. Delay is often divine protection. Delay is where God prepares what is beyond your imagination. You prayed for something great, but do you really believe that greatness can be rushed? When God makes diamonds, He applies pressure. When God molds vessels, He uses fire. And when God prepares a soul for destiny, He often tells that soul to be still, to wait, to trust. Why? Because you must be ready to carry the weight of what is coming. God is not building for now. He is building for always. You are not being prepared for temporary applause. You are being fashioned for eternal impact. And what you carry must be rooted in obedience, not pride. So God strips away your dependence on result. He tears down your addiction to recognition. He removes your idols, success, relationship, speed. And then in the quietness of surrender, He speaks. He whispers, relax, I've got this. And those words spoken by God are more powerful than 10,000 battles. There are things you're praying for right now that seem far away. But God is not delaying to punish you. He's delaying to align you. Because if you received it too early, it would crush you. If you walk through that door without strength, the weight would destroy your peace. So God builds your endurance in silence. He strengthens your character in the shadows. He sharpens your discernment in the waiting. And when the moment is right, when your spirit is ready, when your enemies are silenced, when the time is perfect, God will move, and it will be sudden. It will be complete. It will be undeniable. Relaxing in God means living in a different rhythm. The world screams, do more, move faster, chase harder. But God says, be still and know. Know what? Know that I am the one who parts seas. Know that I am the one who makes streams in the desert. Know that I am the one who calls things that are not as though they were. You don't have to exhaust yourself trying to prove your worth. God already declared it. You don't have to beg for what is yours. God already assigned it. You don't have to fight to be seen. God already chose you. And those who are chosen by God don't chase. They attract. They don't panic. They prepare. They don't force. They flow. When God is your source, you stop leaning on people. You stop relying on circumstances. You stop looking to the left or right, and you fix your gaze on the Almighty. And in that gaze, in that holy focus, you find strength that makes no sense. You find peace that surpasses understanding. You find joy that endures beyond. You find purpose that no man can cancel. So lift your head, shake off the dust, let go of the fear that's been choking your vision. You are not forsaken. You are not forgotten. God has not left you. He has hidden you. He has protected you, and He is speaking to your soul right now. Relax. It's coming. What I promised is still on the way. Not one dream placed in your heart will die if it was born of God. Not one dream placed in your heart will die if it was born of God. And it's not God. Not one tear you've shed in faith will go uncollected. He sees the pain you didn't speak. He knows the burdens you carried without complaining. And He is faithful. He is just. He is mighty. He is able. God will reward you not in men's time but in perfect time. And when that time comes, the same people who overlooked you will be in awe. The same places where you were rejected will open their doors. The same areas where you failed will become testimonies of God's power. But to get there, you must stop fighting battles that God already won. You must stop arguing with people God already removed. You must stop rehearsing wounds that God already healed. Relax. Don't just hear the word, live it. Let your actions speak trust. Let your silence declare faith. Let your patience become worship. Because worship is not just a sound, it is a lifestyle. And when your lifestyle says, God, I trust you, heaven takes notice. The idea that you don't have to do everything is a sound in your life. Heaven takes notice. Some of you have been on the edge of giving up. You've said, I can't do this anymore. I've waited too long. But let me tell you, right before harvest comes weariness. Right before breakthrough comes pressure. Right before the release comes silence. That's where you are. You're not at the end, you're at the edge. And if you can just hold on, if you can just remain in peace, if you can just refuse to panic, God will show up in such power that your enemies won't be able to deny it. You don't need to fear missing your moment. When your life is in God's hands, nothing meant for you can pass you by. Not the job, not the opportunity, not the blessing. What God said will find you. It will pursue you. It will overtake you. And it will establish you in ways that your efforts never could. That's why He says, relax. Because if you keep trying to hold everything together in your own strength, you'll miss the supernatural. God doesn't need your anxiety. He needs your attention. He doesn't need your hustle. He needs your humility. He doesn't need your worry. He needs your worship. Because when you worship instead of worry, when you surrender instead of strive, when you trust instead of fear, God releases. He releases favor. He releases direction. He releases divine connections, not because you earned it, but because you aligned with Him. So today, make a decision. Choose peace over panic. Choose stillness over striving. Choose rest over resistance. Not because life is easy, but because God is able. Not because you see the finish line, but because God has already written the victory. And if God is in control, then nothing is out of control. If God has spoken peace, then no storm can overturn it. Let your soul be still. Let your spirit rise. Let your faith speak louder than your fear. Because when God says relax, He's not asking for silence. He's inviting you to faith. Not empty words, not forced smiles, but the deep burning assurance that everything He said is already in motion. Even if you can't see it, even if you can't feel it, even if the world says otherwise, God is still faithful. When God says relax, He's not asking you to ignore your circumstances. He is commanding you to shift your focus from what's around you to who is above you. Too often we allow the chaos of the world to become louder than the calm of God's voice. We become addicted to noise, to movement, to solving everything in our own power. But God, in His supreme wisdom, is teaching you something higher, something eternal. He is training your spirit not to react to trouble, but to rise above it. He is teaching you that divine peace is not the absence of storms. It is the presence of trust in the midst of them. You may think things are falling apart, but in truth, God is letting some things collapse so that what He builds next will be unshakable. You prayed for a breakthrough. But did you expect it to come through ease? Or did you trust that God would use the fire to refine, the pressure to shape, and the silence to strengthen? God's methods are not always comfortable, but they are always perfect. He is not rushed by your impatience, nor is He moved by your worry. God is working even in the delay. And the stillness He asks of you is not punishment. It is preparation. The world will say, take control. Oh, God says, give me control. The world will say, push harder. God says, stand still and see what I will do. The world rewards anxiety with applause and busyness with approval. But God rewards obedience with peace. That's why your rest in Him is a weapon. It confuses every voice that says your life should be falling apart. When you walk in divine calm, when your spirit refuses to bow to fear, you are proclaiming to the world, my trust is not in outcomes, it is in God. Do not let the burdens of this life outweigh the living Word of God within you. Do not let a momentary delay grow into lasting discouragement. Even when you cannot trace His hand, you can still trust His purpose. God will never desert His own. He never tires. He never loses sight of a single promise. And if He has whispered peace into your spirit, cling to it like an anchor. For circumstances may change, but His word will never come back empty. You are not invisible in the multitude. You are not just another face in the crowd. God looks at you personally, fully, and with intention. Your name is not lost among the billions. Your voice is not drowned out by countless prayers. He knows every breath you take. And when He tells you rest, He is saying, I have already accounted for every fear. I have already settled what lies ahead. I have already supplied what you cannot yet see. Trusting God is not a weakness. It is the highest form of strength. It is choosing to rest while others run. It is choosing to listen while others panic. It is choosing to believe that when nothing is working in your favor, God is still working all things for your good. And sometimes it takes more faith to sit quietly than to run frantically. Sometimes the real strength is not in speaking, but in staying silent until God gives the command to move. Look back on your life. How many times did you think it was over only to watch God come through at the last moment? How many nights did you cry only to wake up and see that the sun still rose, that provision still came, that your strength was renewed? You are not here by accident. You are here because God carried you. Because in every moment when you thought you couldn't take one more step, He was the one sustaining you. Now He is asking you to trust Him again, but deeper this time, not just for small things, but for the impossible. Not just for survival, but for abundance. Not just for daily needs, but for the desires of your heart. But to receive what God has for you, your soul must learn to wait without fear, to hope without doubt, to stand without shaking. You must come to the place where peace becomes your default, where your calm becomes your confidence, and where your stillness becomes your strength. The beauty of divine timing is that it always reveals what human effort could never accomplish. When God moves, He moves in such a way that no one else can take credit. He restores with such completeness that people will wonder how it happened. It was His plan, and it came when you chose to believe instead of break, to worship instead of worry, to relax instead of worry. Some of you are praying for direction, for clarity, for a sign. But hear this, God often answers in whispers, not shouts. He leads in quietness, not chaos. If your heart is loud with fear, you may miss the still small voice that's guiding you. That's why God is telling you to calm down, not just outwardly, but inwardly. Your peace must not be based on your surroundings, but on your surrender. If you can trust Him in the storm, you'll hear Him in the silence. And if you can hear Him in the silence, you'll walk with purpose, even when the path is invisible. Your future is not hanging by a thread. It is held by God. Your next chapter is not uncertain. It is already written. And your current waiting is not wasted. It is producing something in you that nothing else could. Every second you spend trusting God is a seed planted in eternity. And when the harvest comes, it will not be according to your striving. It will be according to His promise. So quiet your soul. Breathe deeply. Stop rehearsing the worst-case scenario. God is not panicking in heaven. He is not confused. He is not figuring it out as He goes. He saw this moment before you were born. He knew what you'd face and He prepared for it. He knew who would betray you and He already made a way to restore you. He knew the doors that would close and He already built the ones that will open. Nothing surprises God, nothing delays His plan, and nothing can stop what He has ordained. The more you relax in God, the more your enemies lose their grip. The more you rest in His promises, the more the voices of doubt fade away. The more you place your full weight on His faithfulness, the less your past can haunt you. You are not at the mercy of circumstances. You are in the hands of the One who controls all things. And when you trust that truth, your spirit becomes unshakable. You begin to move with grace, speak with power, and live with boldness. Because when God says relax, He is not dismissing your pain. He is elevating your perspective. He's calling you to rise above fear, to detach from desperation, and to look again, not at what is missing, but at who is present. God is here. And if God is here, then provision is here. Peace is here. Wisdom is here. Power is here. Everything you need is in him. Everything you desire will come from. So let go. Let the weight fall off your shoulders. Let the burden be released from your mind and say within yourself, I will trust. I will rest. I will believe. You may not know when. You may not know how, but you know who. And if you know who holds your future, then you already have the answer to. Let that truth become your anchor, your shield, your strength. God said, relax. And when God speaks, he speaks only what is true, only what is holy, and only what will stand forever. So let his word be enough. Let his voice drown out every other. Let his peace become your dwelling place. Because everything that is meant for you, everything your heart has prayed for, everything your soul has waited for, everything that aligns with God's will find you. Not because you chased it, but because you trusted. Not because you forced it, but because you flowed with God's timing. That is the power of resting in God. That is the reward of trusting without wavering. And when it all comes, when the peace flood your life, when the answers arrive, when the provision overflows, when the blessing breaks through, don't forget this moment. Don't forget the silence, the stillness, the sacred calm, 'cause that is where your breakthrough was born. That is where heaven responded. That is where God moved, in your stillness, in your surrender, in your trust. When God tells you to relax, he is not merely offering comfort. He is issuing a divine command that separates those who walk by sight from those who walk by faith. It is a call to spiritual maturity. It is a challenge to trust, not in your emotions, not in the noise of the world, not in the opinions of men, but in the unchanging, all-powerful nature of God. And when you understand who is speaking, then his words will become your shield, your compass, and your peace. His voice is not like the voice of man. Man speaks from limitation. God speaks from eternity. Man react, God ordained. And when he speaks a word over your life, it echoes through time with unstoppable force. To relax in God does not mean you have given up. It means you finally stepped into divine agreement. It means your soul no longer wages war against the timing of heaven. It means you are no longer trying to fix spiritual matters with physical tools. It means you no longer allow fear to shape your steps, because the more you know God, the less room there is for anxiety. The more deeply you trust God, the less control you need. You begin to understand that your steps are not random. They are ordered. And when your life is in the hands of God, even detours are part of the design. There are times when the silence of God is louder than 1,000 answers. It is in the silence that your faith is forged. It is in the stillness that your spirit is strengthened. When there is nothing left to do and all you have is trust. This is where the foundation of true faith is laid. Because faith is not proven by results. It is proven by obedience. And your obedience in stillness shouts louder in heaven than all your striving on earth. The world will call your peace foolish. It will not understand why you can sleep while the storm rages. It will question your calm, doubt your patience, and mock your stillness. But what the world cannot see is the unbreakable covenant between your heart and God. What the world cannot touch is the strength that flows from surrender. While others seek validation and applause and progress, you rest in the quiet power of alignment. While others are busy building towers on sand, you are standing on the rock of God's promises. And when you are aligned with God, you are not anxious about who left, what failed, or what hasn't arrived. You know that what departs was never meant to stay. What failed was never part of your future. And what hasn't arrived is still being prepared. Because God does not withhold to punish. He withholds to protect. He doesn't delay to test your patience. He delays to develop your purpose. And the moment you start seeing the delay as a blessing, the weight becomes easier and the peace becomes permanent. So many chase what is never meant to be theirs. So many grasp, hustle, and beg for things that would poison them if they came too soon. But those who wait on God, those who trust and relax in His wisdom, receive not just a gift, but a crown. They receive what is tailor-made for their calling, what has been sealed with divine fingerprints, what will not come with sorrow or loss, but with clarity, honor, and grace. It is time to stop negotiating with doubt. It is time to stop holding hands with worry. Doubt is a thief, worry is a liar, and both will rob you of the peace God already gave you. You do not need a new promise. You need to believe the one you've already received. They are not suggestions. They are not fragile opinions. They are eternal truths, spoken by the Creator of heaven and earth, who is not moved by time, trends, or threats. When God tells you to relax, He is realigning your spirit with the frequency of faith. He is lifting you above the fog of fear and placing you in the clarity of trust. Because fear demands answers, but faith demands obedience. Fear asks, what if it never happens? Faith declares it will happen when God decides. Fear focuses on the lack. Faith rests in the source. And the moment you choose faith over fear, the atmosphere shifts, the burden lifts, and your heart begins to rise in quiet strength. Some of you have been carrying loads that were never yours to bear. You've been fighting battles that God never called you to fight.